We now proceed into part 3 of William Walker Atkinson's The Arcane Teaching. Part 3 is called The Life of the Ego. Its 3 lessons are Lesson 7, The One and the Many, Lesson 8, Metempsychosis, and Lesson 9, Survival of the Fittest. Again, this is part 3, The Life of the Ego. Lesson 7, The One and the Many. The One and the Many. We now invite you to consider the important philosophical problem of the one and the many, as explained by the Arcane teaching. In the philosophies which hold that the one life is the absolute, this problem is unexplainable. For it is impossible to conceive of the absolute, which is immutable and indivisible, changing and dividing itself into parts, or apparently doing so. With the recognition of the fact that the cosmic one life is not the absolute, but is under law, then the difficulty vanishes. Listen to the aphorism. Aphorism number 12. Know ye that in truth there is but one life and not many lives. Separateness is but relative and partial, illusory, the creative fiction of the cosmos. Who teaches otherwise errs. In the cosmic will, there is the one life in which and by which is manifested the many. In the previous lessons, we have seen that the cosmic will is the lifeness of all life, just as consciousness is its livingness. Back of and under all manifestations of life, there is always the cosmic will. But the cosmic will precedes the particular manifestation that we call life, for it existed before life appeared in the cosmos. The great cosmic energies and activities which manifested in world building in all of its phases were but manifestations of the cosmic will bestirring itself. The fundamental activities show but little evidence of what we call life. There seems to be but little life in the mineral kingdom, but still the will is seen in operation there, building up and tearing down, arranging and rearranging, combining and recombining. The attraction and repulsion of the atoms and of the particles composing the atoms show us that the will is present and in operation in these lowly manifestations. In gravitation, we see a wonderful evidence of the operation of the cosmic will. In chemical affinity and molecular cohesion, we have similar evidences. In all the great natural laws, in evidence throughout the cosmos, we may see the operation of the cosmic will, always. The laws of physics demonstrate clearly the existence of some conative power, animating, energizing, and manifesting in every part and particle of creation. One must indeed be a blind materialist to fail to see ever at work that something within manifesting as the something without. The building up of the crystal from liquid to regular and exact geometrical form should be sufficient to convince anyone that there is a something at work in it. Even the materialist is forced to recognize these facts, and he does recognize it, and calls that something by the name of nature. We have no quarrel with names. If the term nature suits you, use it by all means. But if you think clearly, you must recognize that your nature is conative, and acts and manifests as a cosmic will. These fundamental activities and manifestations of the cosmic will, or one life, are akin to the activities and manifestations of our own lives. Stop to consider that your body was built up from a single cell by your life forces. Not only your fleshy parts, but your hair, your nails, your teeth, and even the hardest bones which form your framework. And likewise, the flint-like shell of the clam, the oyster, and other hard-shell animals were so built up. not to speak of the harder geometrical crystal forms of the diamond and other minerals, which are but built-up shapes and forms. The diamond is composed of carbon, which is but a gaseous substance which becomes solid under certain conditions. The hard ivory of the elephant's tusk was built up from cells by the life forces within the animal itself. So you see that life can build up hard substances as well as soft ones. And the same force that builds up these hard substances builds up the rocks and the hills and the mountains and the minerals that form the body of nature. Just as certain functions of the animal or human brain manifest in building up the body of the cosmos. The cosmic will, from the beginning, has sought to embody itself in objective form in order to manifest consciousness, which is the livingness of life, as we have explained in a previous lesson. Like the life forces in any being, it first concerned itself in providing a body for itself, in order that it would have a substantial foundation for further and higher manifestation of its life. In the cosmos, the material plane of activity is the one first operated upon. Then comes the slowing down of the vibrations of motion, and the principle of substance produces the elementary particles which, combining, form matter. Then matter begins to evolve into higher forms, until at last there is produced the combination in which is possible the manifestation that we call organic life. From the lowly living cell-like creatures in the slimy depths of the primeval ocean beds, arise step by step, slowly, tediously, painfully, arduously, and haltingly, but surely and steadily, form after form of higher and still higher living organisms. The modern scientific theory of evolution, which however was antedated some 2,500 years ago by the ancient Greek philosophers, tells us a tale of the slow rise and development of life forms. At last man, a poor, weak, brutal creature with wonderful possibilities, was evolved by the one life in its urge toward conscious life. And this poor creature has advanced wonderfully. And evolution does not stop here, for man is but an intermediate step. On other worlds in the cosmos, there are beings as much higher than man as man is higher than the earthworm. Our planet is but one of millions upon millions of worlds in which evolution is at work. We are away down low in the scale of worlds and being. There are beings as great as man's conceptions of the gods of old, dwelling on some of these planets and worlds. Some of us have dwelt on these brighter spheres, but have been sent back a grade or two in order to complete tasks left undone, or to gain experiences necessary, or because the fires of material desire had not yet died out in us, and we needed to get enough of it once more in order to be free of the dross. There are planes of life so transcendently grand and exalted that man's wildest imagination cannot conceive of them. And on the other hand, there are worlds lower in the scale, so sunken in materiality and foulness that the orthodox hell would be preferable to them. Man goes where his desires take him. He travels the road of his desires and thoughts. He makes his own route. He guides his own vessel. Man is his own destiny. Now, I want to intercede here, me, to just very, very briefly address the issue of other beings of greater technology and intelligence playing a role in creating what is called the human being. That idea seems to stand outside what I just read, but it doesn't. All we need to do is understand that this is not a treatise on how the creation of man actually happened. This is a pointing out of the principles by which involution and evolution occur in the cosmos, which includes the human being. If there were intercedent beings in aiding this process or making it happen, that fits. So what? We're talking about the basic principles and laws of operation by which any of it takes place. That said, I continue. The many lives are but centers of life in the one great life. Separateness is but the creative fiction of the cosmos, illusory and relative. All life is but one in its fundamental nature. The entire cosmos is but one life in which we are parts or centers. In its being, we live and move and have our being. The one life is not far away, but is all around us and immanent within us. While one phase of the cosmic paradox shows the individual to be but an infinitesimal unit in a stupendous whole, the other phase shows the individual to be identical with the whole, connected with all by spiritual bonds and links, and sharing the infinite possibilities of the all. The life of the individual is not bounded by his personal limitations, but includes the life of the all. In this understanding and recognition, there is found the reconciliation, unity, and agreement between the contradictory phases of life in the universe. True spiritual advancement depends upon the increasing recognition and identification of the individual with the all. An important point in the arcane teaching is that which holds that the cosmos is, and can be, conscious only through and by means of the various centers of consciousness within itself. Without these centers of consciousness within itself, the consciousness of you and I and all the rest, the one life, would be unconscious. Just as the individual can be conscious only through his stream of units of consciousness, so can the one life be conscious only through its stream of centers of consciousness. Destroy these centers of consciousness, and the cosmos once more is resolved into its condition of unconscious nothingness. And moreover, the one life can live only through its centers of life. The centers called you and I and all the rest. Will is the lifeness of life. Consciousness is the livingness of life. And the individual is the center of both will and consciousness, and therefore of life. As the cosmos advances in the cosmic day, there is manifested a constantly increasing blending or unification of the various centers of life, a constantly increasing identification of the individual with the all. And thus is accomplished the approach to the cosmic high noon, when the one life, as one life and consciousness, lives, wills, and is conscious. Before that time comes, the illusion of separateness is manifested. The creative fiction of the cosmos operates in working out the approach to cosmic consciousness. Thus it is seen that the cosmos, or one life, does not manifest as separate units of life in order to amuse itself, or to try experiments, or any of the various explanations hazarded by philosophy, metaphysics, or theology. It manifests through the centers, because it must do so in order to live and be conscious. Excuse me. Creation and the universe is not a matter of whim, unreasoning desire, or arbitrary fiat of the one life of the cosmos. Far from that. It is a cosmic necessity. It is the cosmic necessity. Just as you must live in order to be alive, so must the cosmos manifest life in order to live and be conscious. Just as you find the imperative demand for life within yourself, so does the cosmic life find the imperative demand for life within itself. The one life is under the law, just as you are under the laws. The urge of must is ever impelling it forward. It is not free. It is under the law and the laws. The law is ever over and above it. The 7 laws are constantly in operation within it. The one life is not a cruel, arbitrary master or ruler. It is your greater self, and subject to the same laws which govern you. It is doing the best it can for itself and therefore for you. When the individual realizes this fact, the fact that the one life is doing the best it can, is bound by the laws as much as is the individual, that there is no manifestation of arbitrary desire or unreasoning whim in the cosmic machinery, that one is all and all is one, then there appears a reason and explanation for much in life which has hitherto defied explanation or reason, or theory of justice and equity. Then is there seen an explanation of that apparently arbitrary, despotic manifestation of power, which caused old Omar Khayyam to utter his rebellious protests and cry aloud, "Into this universe, and why, not knowing, nor whence, like water willy-nilly flowing, and out of it, as wind along the waste, I know not whither, willy-nilly blowing. What, without asking, hither hurried whence? And without asking, whither hurried hence? Oh, many a cup of this forbidden wine must drown the memory of that insolence. A moment guessed, then back behind the fold, immersed of darkness round the drama rolled, which for the pastime of eternity he doth himself contrive and act behold. We are no other than a moving row of magic shadow shapes that come and go, round with the sun-illumined lantern held in midnight by the master of the show. But helpless pieces of the game he plays upon his checkerboard of night and days, hither and thither moves and checks and slays, and one by one back in the closet lays. The ball, no question, makes of eyes and nose, but here and there as strikes the player goes, and he that tossed you down into the field, he knows about it all. He knows. He knows. Many daring thinkers who, setting aside the bribe of heaven and the threat of hell, have dared to look life in the face, have been overcome by a sense of impotent subjection to an arbitrary being who, being able to remedy conditions and knowing of the pains of mortal life in the universe, nevertheless has deliberately imposed such conditions upon living things. Such thinkers find it impossible to reconcile the claimed qualities of love and good in such a being with the manifestations of apparent injustice, inequity, pain, and suffering which made pessimists of great souls like Buddha, Lao Tzu, and the writer of Ecclesiastes. Indeed, viewing life from this viewpoint, one finds it hard to escape the conviction which inspired the bitter words of old Omar when he cried, "What? Out of senseless nothing to provoke a conscious something to resent the yoke of unpermitted pleasure, under pain of everlasting penalties if broke? What, from this helpless creature be repaid pure gold for what he lent him dross allayed? Sue for a debt we never did contract and cannot answer? Oh, the sorry trade! Oh, thou who didst with pitfall and with grin beset the road I was to wander in, thou wilt not with predestined evil round enmesh, and then impute my fall to sin. Oh, thou who man of baser earth didst make, and even with paradise devised the snake, for all the sin wherewith the face of man is blackened, man's forgiveness give and take. But with the dawning knowledge that the one life or world spirit is not the absolute, but is under law and laws superimposed upon it, then we have a picture of a universal being which suffers with us and through us. rises with us and through us, strives with us and through us, attains with us and through us, rejoices with us and through us, conquers with us and through us, and whose life is composed of our lives, whose consciousness is composed of our consciousness. Such a being is seen to be at the last one with ourselves, instead of an outside power. And consequently, such a being is seen to be eternally making for good making, for our good, for we are one with itself. Such a being is seen to be but the composite self of all the individual selves of the cosmos, the real self. And in the recognition of all this, our bitterness must die away, and a great feeling of compassion, sympathy, understanding, and love must be manifested by us and felt by us. Then must come that sense of oneness with the all, which is the great reconciler, which harmonizes the opposites and establishes the cosmic balance. This one life is you, and you are it. Centers of life. Apparently separate are we now, but steadily growing toward that time, phase, and state of cosmic consciousness in which the all shall know itself as one, and the one know itself as all. As the ego, the capital E, not the false ego of personality rooted in the five senses. As the ego, the true self, progresses through stages of spiritual evolution, its consciousness enlarges and expands, including more and more of the cosmos within it as the self, until the stages of cosmic consciousness are reached in which the ego finds itself blending into the whole, and the all blending into the self. This is what is meant by cosmic consciousness. Spiritual consciousness, transcendental consciousness, the higher consciousness, the moksha of the Brahmas, the nirvana of the Buddhists, the union with God of the mystics, the divine marriage of the Sufis, the Brahmic splendor of the Oriental poets, of all those transcendental states of consciousness in which the self blends into the all in varying degrees according to the development of the soul. This is the secret of the mystics of all times and lands. This is the mystery of Buddha, the divine bliss of the Brahmins. This is the wine of the Sufi symbology. Even old Omar, in his bitter complaint, was true to his Sufi instincts and recognized the one. He said, whose secret presence, through creation's veins, running quicksilver-like, eludes your pains, taking all shapes, from Ma to Mahi, and they change and perish all, but he remains. And this was the thought that inspired these striking lines from an unknown poet. Thou great, eternal, infinite, thou great, unbounded whole, thy body is the universe, thy spirit is its soul. If thou dost fill immensity, if thou art all in all, then I'm in thee and thou in me, or I'm not here at all. How can I be outside of thee when thou fill earth and air? There surely is no place for me outside of everywhere. If thou art all, and thou dost fill immensity of space, then in thy being do I dwell, or else I have no place. And if I have no place at all, what am I doing here? Beyond the all I cannot be, outside of everywhere. Then truly, in thyself am I, and thou must be in me, or else there is no all in all, no me, no thee to be. Well, this one is the great cosmic spirit, cosmic will, life principle, one life of the cosmos, in which the arcane teachers find the real self and universal being. This is the great principle of life and being, in which we live and move and have our being. This is the great cosmic life which awakens in the dawn of the cosmic day, and thus proceeds gradually to evolve into the cosmic consciousness of high noon, thence on to rest in the ecstatic state of transcendental bliss, consciousness, and being. Sat Chit Ananda, the Hindus call it, bliss, consciousness, and being. The kingdom of heaven, other mystics have called it, during the afternoon of the cosmic day, which state extends over countless eons of time, thence passing into the dreamlike slumber of the twilight of the cosmic day, and thence on toward the resolution into the state of unconsciousness in the infinity of nothingness of the cosmic midnight, and thence on to the reawakening at the first glimpses of the dawn of the new cosmic day, as above, so below, as below, so above, from one know all. And thus is the great cycle of the cosmos, thus the working of the laws. And ever over all dwells the law, unchanged, peaceful, undisturbed, ever the same, alone, absolute. That concludes lesson 7.